Okay, for today's adventure, we're going to do the power steering connections. So we got the Holley power steering pump on this mid-mount accessory drive kit, and I've got the Corvette rack down here. So what I have to do, and I've also got a cooler that's going to go out here on the front of the core support. So I don't have the core support on there, but I'm going to run the hoses out so that I can mount it up easily when I do. So I'm going to get this all plumbed up, and I'll kind of show you how I'm going to do that. Let me get my parts out here. I got to find everything. Got to make a few hoses. Should be pretty straightforward though. So let's see what we get. All right, so first thing I want to do is I'm going to convert all of this over to AN fittings. So these have an O-ring interface on the normal metal hoses that go down in there. So I'm converting them over to AN with these adapters. So let me pull my plugs out. The large hole, or the larger hose or fitting, is my pressure side. Make sure that's nice and clean in there. It looks good. So this one will go in here. Pretty straightforward. And I'll just tighten those up with a deep 6-point. Come on. Feels like it starts and then it doesn't. There we go. Okay. All right, so I'll tighten those up real quick. You don't have to go too crazy because they have a nice O-ring interface on them. Okay, here we go. All right, so now my first hose is going to come off the pressure port, which Holley was nice enough to relocate out here where it's accessible. And I've got to go from there down to here. So I'm not sure if I'm going to use a 45 or a 90. So let's check them both out, see what they look like. Let's see. Okay, so if I put a 90 on there, that's pretty good actually. That comes out all right. I just try to make it as straight as I can down to the fitting, but keep in mind the motor's going to rock a little bit, so you don't want it super tight. This is what a 45 would look like. Yeah, it's got to be a 90. If I had something in between a 45 and a 90, I'd use it, but we're going to go with a 90 there. Now, down on here, yeah, that could either be a straight or a 45. grab another 45 here. See what that looks like. I do try to keep an inventory of these on hand. I tend to use them a lot. This is all PTFE tubing. So I'll show you the tube I'm going to use in a minute. Yeah, I think a 45 is more appropriate. All right, so then I can just do a quick loop from here to here, and that should come out pretty good. Let me bring you around here so you can see what I'm into. Yeah, so now with my 245s, I can loop it like this, get a little extra slack in there, and that'll be fine. This guy down here, however, that might be a 45 as well, or a 90, could be either. And then out here, I'm going to put two 90s up into the bottom of my cooler out here. So I'm going to set those aside. Yeah, I think a 45 is probably more appropriate on that one as well. Yeah, my other option is I could do a straight up above here. See how that looks. If I put a straight on here, I just feel like that's a little too much of a bend radius for me, so I'm gonna or I could do the straight on the bottom. Which would give me a little more length for my loop. But it's kind of pointed out in the wrong direction completely. So I got options. Yeah. All right, I'm doing 45 and 45. That's for sure. Whoops. What happened? It came apart. Oh yeah, it's down there. Okay, so I'm going to need 3 45s and 2 90s to accomplish this mission. Maybe a third 90, we'll see. All right, now the problem I have with all this is this low pressure port here is not an AN, so I've got to convert that from AN to regular hose for a short distance, I think. And that's molded right into the case, so there's no way to change that. Okay. All right, let's, I guess we can start building this up. I like to, I'll build up one side first and then we'll measure it and put in the second side. Slip this back on so I don't lose it. This one will go down here, the return line, right before it goes into the cooler. And yeah, that will work just fine. Okay, let's build these up. All right, so this is the material I like to use in the engine compartment. It's a coated, it's stainless steel braided, but then it's coated with this plastic. It's just much easier to clean. It doesn't hold dirt. It works pretty nice. All right, so the first thing you do is you got to make sure you got a good square cut, which neither one of these do. So I'm going to cut it. I just cut it with a death wheel on the disc grinder. Works about the best for me. I haven't tried a lot of other options, but this seems to work pretty well. Okay, so now I take my big unruly piece of hose, because you don't want to waste this crap, because it's not cheap. Then I just start the thread down on this end, hopefully. Being careful not to cross thread it, because that would suck. All right, now I'm going to bend this out a little bit more. And then what I'll typically do is put a piece of tape on it and mark the tape. All right. So if I want to put this back in, I want to say I'm going to make a little bit of a curve in it. So I'm going to put it right about where my finger is. Just put some tape on. Hopefully it sticks. Hope you can see that. Man, I have been dropping everything today. Okay, so now I am just going to mark it like here, and that's where I got to cut it off. So, there it goes again. I'll take off the rest of this fitting, which I already have the nut and the acorn over there, but basically you cut it just so where the tubing ends on that shoulder. Just like that. Okay, I'll show you what I got. All right, let's slip this one in. See how I did. You never know. I think it's gonna be easier to do the bottom one first, so I'm gonna just get that in, finger tight, so I can still swivel it. Now these things are nice because they swivel on the pivots. All right, now I'm gonna get this one started. Getting it lined up perfectly square to start is kind of key. There it goes. Now you can see I've kind of left a little bit of slack in this one, just so that I can, if the motor twists a little bit, it's not going to be trying to tear that apart. And we'll just tighten these up. All right. Yeah, right there. And once you tighten this up, that swivel kind of locks in. There's no moving it after that. There we go. And I'll do the same on the bottom. There we go. All right. Now, that's pretty good. Pretty happy with that. I might back that off a little bit because it does seem a little tight. So let's just give it a little more twist. Now that's the pressure line. That's the one that's gonna, it provides pressure to the rack, and then the return line comes out. And that goes to the intercooler, the cooler. So I've put this end in on this side already. I like to do that at the same time I finish the previous hose. So now I'm going to go down in and tighten this one up. I just kind of get this on there so I can figure out where my next piece is going to be cut. All right, now that's a 45. It's gonna come out to about here. Let me zoom this out so you can see what's going on. So the cooler is gonna sit on the front of the core support, and it's gonna come up into the bottom of it with the two 90 degree fittings. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna guesstimate where that's gonna land. I'm gonna say about right there. Might give it a little extra slack if I want to get it higher. So let's just say right there. And I forgot my tape, of course. All right. Now, this thing comes out. I'm gonna come up through, so my piece is about right there. Throw some tape on that guy. There we go. Then I'll cut that right about here. Hey, a little further out. About right there. All right, step and repeat. All right, that pretty much wraps this up. So I've got my pressure line, AN6, down to the rack, return line, out to the cooler. I just threw a union in here for right now because the coolers, both fittings are gonna turn up when they go through the core support, and then the return back, and I had to convert back to regular hose right at the end there. Hopefully that'll be okay. I don't like doing that, but there's no other way. So with PTFE hose, that makes that kind of difficult. So that's pretty much it for the power steering. I think I actually put some dye in this already. I like to put a little dye in that, the UV dye, just so that I can, no, there's no dye in there yet. I put a little UV dye in it so that if there's any leaks, it becomes super obvious and easy to find. But yeah, that's about it. I think this chassis is pretty much ready to push aside. The exhaust is done. Drive shaft is ready to be sent out for balance. I've pressed in the the U-joints, so that's ready. Yeah, I guess I've milked this long enough. I've got to push this aside. I got one job to do on my Silverado. I'm getting a little rust on the front fenders right above the mud flap, so I'm gonna blast those, epoxy it, and get that fixed up next weekend. But yeah, I think right now I'm just gonna take the rest of the day and hoe this shop out, get it cleaned up. I've got a monumental mess going right now, so is what it is. You know, where wood is work, shavings will fall. So anyway, thanks for watching. I know this was a kind of a short one, but you know, there's not a lot of information on how to hook up to these Corvette racks in a hot rod environment. So figured that would be a good opportunity to show you what I do. Again, right, wrong, indifferent, don't really care. This is what I'm doing. So it works for me. End of story. So I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to push on and just get things cleaned up. I want to get this chassis covered up and out of the way so that when I start doing body work, I don't get it all covered with crap. But yeah, that's basically it. Time to pull out the body. Yay.